Hey there, old school gamers. Today we're going to talk about something that is really old school that has started to come back into vogue. I think that the reason that it has sort of started to come back into vogue is because of the Amazon Vox Machina cartoon. What I'm talking about is party names. As far as I know, party names kind of go back to like Tolkien and the Fellowship of the Ring, or the companions, the Nine Companions, the companions of the Company of the Ring, stuff like that. This was continued in places like Gary Gygax's Greyhawk and Ed Greenwood's Forgotten Realms and Dave Arneson's Blackmoor, where it was very, very common for an adventuring party to actually have a name for the adventuring party. Now, in practice, though, what I have seen, doing the various versions of this game, all the different editions and companies that have come out with their own versions and all the different versions we do, which I just kind of collectively call D&D, and a lot of us just collectively call it D&D, even if it's Pathfinder or what have you. But for this game here, for 40 years, I haven't actually seen it done as much as I have lately. We, at my table and most people's tables that I was around for 40 years, just sort of had the group, just the adventurers. We didn't really have a name for the party. It didn't really concern anyone. It didn't come up. Didn't seem to be necessary. Now, in universe, there are times and places where because the idea of having an adventuring party is a thing in these universes, in Greyhawk, in Forgotten Realms, in Blackmoor, in Exandria, where Vox Machina is, or even at, just the common average person's homebrewed table world. In these worlds, it is a thing to have adventuring parties like this, and adventuring parties get to be famous and have names and stuff like that. But actual player characters, the actual people in the real world that come to sit at your table and act out and play characters in these worlds, maybe your experience has been different, but I just haven't seen it matter to people to have a name until lately. And I think the reason that it matters lately is Vox Machina. Now, so I promised a couple tables, Saturday and Tuesday, actually have names, and I promised that I would share them in the video today. So on Tuesday nights, if you come in on Tuesday nights to Discord to hang out during a game, because it's always free to hang out, those are the Ruby Guardians. And on Saturday night, now the Ruby Guardians, in their very first adventure, like their origin story where they first got together, they stopped the world of Mystara from being invaded by Auric of the 100 Eyes, an outer being. Not really a god or a traditional Mystaran immortal, but one of the outer being Lovecraftian elder evil type things. And so they stopped Auric of the 100 Eyes from invading Mystara, and of course Auric of the 100 Eyes is kept in a ruby prison, and so his cult and the ceremony to bring him into Mystara and stuff involves a whole lot of ruby stuff. And there was giant ruby they had to smash, and so and there was a ruby necrotic aura, around an entire castle. And so the Ruby Guardians, that's kind of what they went with. Then on Saturday nights, they kind of, at least for a while, they've had kind of an undead or necromancer type theme. So there was a paladin of a death god and a necromancer mage, and a sidekick who's actually an intelligent ghoul, and a few other things. Not every character is connected in that party is connected to death or necromancy, but some of them were, and so they came up with the name Death's Advance. And so Death's Advance is Saturday nights, Ruby Guardians is Tuesday nights. Now this, so what I'm going to kind of toss out now, I'm going to go into how this does play out in the D&D world, and then just ask you what's been your experience. Are you like, John, where have you been? For the past 40 years, party names have been very important. I mean, you just didn't see it. Maybe that's true. Maybe that's the case. So definitely, go ahead and respond below, or find us in Discord and let us know how you feel about party names, or interesting stories you may have about party names. But as party names kind of play out in the D&D world, as I have come to understand it, is there are times, like for adventuring guilds and stuff, where a party might actually have to register, actually fill out documents as an entity, as a group. Kind of like in real life, we have corporations. And so what's happened at my table usually, though, when people have to register with the government or sign their name on a scroll or be accounted for something in universe by NPCs and organizations and governments in world, is most of the people just are listed as individuals. It hasn't really followed the Tolkien-ish Gygaxian trope of having, Fellowship of the Ring, or I remember one of Ed Greenwood's Forgotten Realms groups was called the Knights of Myth Draenor, and that they weren't actually a knighthood per se, not a knighthood sponsored by a king or anything. That was just the name of their adventuring group. They called themselves knights. They were the Knights of Myth Draenor. So so I kind of see adventuring party names legally in the world for the governments and documentation and accounting and all the people in the D&D world that might be, scroll keepers and barristers or lawyers or attorneys or whatever you call them in your D&D world. For legal purposes, I think the names of adventuring groups are kind of like corporations from real life. And so that's, it's kind of how I see it. Now, on Wednesdays, tonight is our very first Save or Die night, and the game is going to be Old School Essentials. And I don't want to give spoilers about exactly what's going to happen in the plot, but the first plot is going to revolve around competing adventuring companies. And these adventuring companies have names, and it's going to be kind of like a sports saga between competing in a league, kind of like by competing adventuring teams that are competing against each other. Of course, they're going to have names. And they're going to have fans, and there's going to be people that want their autographs and stuff. So the player characters may be joining one of these teams. I don't want to give too much more away about the plot, but that's another example of how it's really struck me lately about how this idea of party names is coming back into vogue, I think, and I think it's Vox Machina that we can thank for that. So what do you think about party names? Find us on Discord with the link below. You can find our menu of games down below at grumpyoldgms.com, and you can find our Patreon to get personal coaching to